This is lesson 6.3, fractions and decimals on the number line. In this video, you will learn to understand positive and negative numbers and use them to describe real-life situations as well as graph them on a number line. In section 6.1, you learn that integers can be negative. Fractions and decimals can also be negative, and it all works exactly the same way. Example 1. Graph each number and its opposite. So first I'm going to draw a number line. We're going to do part A first. So we're graphing the fraction 3/4 and its opposite. So the only numbers I've put on this number line are 0, -1, and 1, because 3/4 is between 0 and 1. I put 0 and -1 on there because I like to have my number line be symmetrical. So I need to figure out where 3/4 is on this number line. So I can actually divide this portion between 0 and 1 up into fourths. So I divide it up in half, then I have two parts. If I divide those into half, I now have 4 parts. And I need to go over 3. 1, 2, 3. So this is 3/4, and I want you to actually write the number, because it's not on there because we only have the whole numbers. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side because you need to graph its opposite as well. So I'm going to go the same distance from 0, and I'm going to go half, and then divide those in half to divide it into fourths. And then I'm going to go over 3 from 0. That's there, -3/4. Okay, for part B, I'm going to draw a number line again. This time it's -1.6. So I'm going to actually make my number line go up to 2 on each side. And 1.6, -1.6, I'm going to graph that first, and that's going to be between -1 and -2. -1.5 is halfway. It's going to be a little more than that. I don't have a stylus for this video. I left it at school, so I'm using my fingers, so things might not look exactly as accurate as I'd like here. So I'm going to be a little more than half, because I'd say that half is probably, hopefully I can mark it about right there. So that blue mark would be about -1.6, because remember, if it's going to get bigger, it's going to go to the left of 0. It's actually getting smaller, but farther away from 0. So right here is -1.6. And then in the other direction, I'm going to mark halfway between 1 and 2. Hopefully I can get this, about right there. So I'm going to go just a little hair to the right, and I'm going to have that be 1.6. And that's -1.6 and its opposite. Example 2, compare -1/2 and -3/4. So we're going to do this in a number line. Here's 0. These are all between 0 and 1, or 0 and -1. -1/2 is exactly between 0 and -1. So I'm going to put that right there. -3/4, that's going to be between -1/2 and -1. So I'm going to put that right here. So when I'm comparing these, I'm going to write them out, -1/2, -3/4, and I'm going to either put a less than, greater than, or equal sign in between. Well, remember, numbers to the left on the number line are smaller, numbers to the right are greater. This -1/2 is on the right side, so I'm going to put the greater than sign there. And that's my answer. Don't just put them on a number line, you need to actually write this part out right there. Here we are comparing again, so I'm going to draw another number line. I'm only going to draw part of the number line though, because I only need this little part that's between like -4 and -5. I don't need to draw all the rest of it. So they're both with 4 and a denominator of 6, so I can divide this up into 6 pieces. And here I have -4 and 5/6. So -4 and 5/6 is going to be right here. And -4 and 1/6 is right here. So remember, if it's to the left on the number line, it's smaller. If it's to the right, it's bigger. So negative 4 and 5/6, negative 4 and 1/6. I'm going to actually draw the less than sign if I put this number on the left. And I like to keep them in the same order that they're given to me in the problem. There's no reason to switch them around. I just leave them how they are. And then draw the appropriate greater than, less than, or equal to sign right here. Now I'm going to compare decimals. Again, this works the same way as fractions. It works the same way as integers. I'm going to draw a number line. I'm only going to draw the portion of the number line that's between negative 3 and negative 4, because that's where negative 3 and 8/100ths and negative 3 and 8/10ths falls. So you have to be really careful when you're looking at the place value here and here. 3 and 8/100ths, that's actually really close to negative 3. So I'm going to place that right here. I mean, that's almost negative 3. It's just a touch over. It's right there. Negative 3 and 8/10ths, that's getting pretty close to 4. So that's going to be down on this end. That's like dividing this up. That's 8/10ths. That's the same as this, as a fraction. So that's like dividing this space between here and here up into 10 and going over 8. So that's negative 3.8 right there. Okay, so negative 3.08, negative 3.8, that's the order they gave it to me right here. And if it's to the right on a number line, it's bigger. If it's to the left on the number line, it's smaller. So this one is bigger. The 3 and 8/10ths is bigger because it's more to the right on a number line, because these are negative numbers. Okay, example 4. A Chinook wind is a warm mountain wind that can cause rapid temperature changes. The table shows 3 of the greatest temperature drops ever recorded after a Chinook wind occurred. On which date did the temperature drop the fastest? Explain. Okay, so here we have 3 choices, here, here, and here. So I'm going to put all these guys on a number line. These are all negative, so I'm only going to put 0 and some negative numbers to the left of it. The first one I have is negative 3 and 1/10. That's going to be a little bit to the left of negative 3. The next one, and that's January 10th. The next one I have is negative 5/8. That's just a little over halfway between 0 and negative 1. So I'm going to put that right there. And then I have 2 and 1/5. That's negative 2 and 1/5. So I'm going to go past negative 2 and only 1/5 of the way over. So maybe about there. So then the question was, on which date did the temperature drop the fastest? On which date did the temperature drop the fastest? Well, for this one, we're not looking for the greatest number. We're actually looking for the number that's farthest away from 0. And it actually is this one right here, negative 3 and 1/10. And so the temperature dropped the fastest on January 10th, 1911.